Auto theft is running rampant in 2024. Vehicles are being stolen at rates that we haven't seen since 2010.
All it takes is a matter of seconds. Within that short span, your vehicle can be gone.
What the concerning part is it is funding organized crime, it is funding terrorism.
What is causing this major uptick in car theft, and what can we do about it? In the last 2 years, car theft has gone from some ordinary, stable issue that society has just generally had to deal with at some level to becoming a full-blown crisis. It's happening all over the world, but specific countries are dealing with it a lot worse. In Toronto, Canada, where I'm from, the police service have reported an uptick in 104% in auto theft. And while it may be simple to just chalk it up to people leaving their doors unlocked at night, or Uber Eats drivers leaving their vehicle running while they run inside to grab the food, those situations do happen. But we would not be having a crisis if that was the core problem. But instead, what we are actually dealing with is organized crime at a global scale. This is an operation so large that it scales all the way from a kingpin down to high schoolers. Not that I have any sympathy for insurance companies, but I'm using this statistic to illustrate the point I'm trying to make here. Canada's private auto insurance companies had to pay out $1.5 billion in 2023. That is up over 250% since 2018. So the question is, how did we get here, and why is this such a big problem today? If you look at the statistics, car theft used to be a crazy problem in the early 2000s, much worse than it is today. But with the help of two things, car thefts decreased drastically, and by 2011, they pretty much plateaued at a certain point and stayed there basically up until recently. The two things that curbed car theft in the early 2000s were a huge crackdown on crime and an increase in security measures from car manufacturers. And while security measures have continually improved in vehicles in the modern day, at least in Canada, the criminal crackdown on auto theft has not kept up with the times. Once the problem had mostly been resolved, they kind of just sat back. Mission accomplished. We did our job. And so there hasn't been nearly as much enforcement on auto theft in recent years, which means that the door is now open for people to step through and take advantage of the system. Auto theft has gotten so bad that we have actual dealerships selling stolen cars knowingly, and the Toronto Police Department is urging Torontonians to just leave their keys near the front door to avoid home invasions. So it is obvious that enforcement is a large part of the issue, but enforcement is a reactionary thing rather than a proactive thing. And so the other solution that can be implemented is proactive measures implemented by the manufacturer. Now, this is pretty funny. When asked about how manufacturers can play into preventing car theft, the RCMP commissioner said, if you look at a car company whose car is stolen regularly, nobody's gonna buy that car. Which I think is really stupid because it basically just puts the responsibility on the consumer when we should be having consumer protection. You should not be able to buy a product that has inherent flaws that can be exploited for criminal gain. And to just blame someone whose car got stolen on the fact that they bought a car that's often stolen is just really, really stupid to me. But beyond the fact that enforcement is not where it should be, why are we seeing such a big uptick in criminal activity in the likes of auto theft? A big part is because it's very profitable. And what we're seeing is these cars are being ripped off driveways, off car dealership lots, and they're so quick that by the time you realize it's gone, it's already on a shipping container headed to another part of the world. Additionally, another factor as to why car theft has become such a huge issue is because while technology in anti-theft measures has increased, so has technology for theft. There's now what's called a relay attack, which is when someone uses a device that can catch on to, let's say, your key fob's signal and relay it to the car without the key fob actually doing anything. And they've gotten so good at this that they can do it in like 30 seconds or less. But here's the thing, not all of these car thefts are harmless. We're also seeing carjackings in broad daylight, GTA 5 style, just like tossing the owner out of the vehicle and leaving them stranded on the side of the road. Meanwhile, a criminal is driving off with their car. So it's a pretty scary situation all around. And what we can do to combat it and solve it is similar to what we have done in the past. Number one, we need stronger laws with harsher penalties. These penalties need to be scary enough for the risk to outweigh the reward of stealing a vehicle. Number two, we need to actually be able to enforce these laws. That means more government involvement and more police activity, and more investigations into the criminal organizations that are behind these carjackings and car thefts. We also need to start implementing better security measures in vehicles from manufacturers to help prevent this new digital age version of stealing vehicles. Something that manufacturers are implementing in the UK is personalized privacy and anti-theft measures in vehicles. Things like inputting a password just like your phone, or some kind of code where you're flicking dials and pressing buttons in a specific sequence that you've determined in order to unlock the ability to ignite the car. And these measures are working. The reason we're only seeing these changes happening in the UK is because that's the only place where these laws are in place. Manufacturers are lazy and cheap, and the only way they're going to implement features like this is if government forces them to do so. And until the Western world decides to wake up and start implementing some of these laws like the UK has, we're not going to see these features in cars anytime soon. It seems as though car theft is actually funding a lot of organized crime, and so by attacking the car theft problem, you're actually attacking a huge revenue source for these criminal organizations. Drop a like. I'll see you in the next video.